In the history of motion pictures, only a select few performers have become immortalized by the roles they have portrayed. Consider the Vamp, the Champ, the Tramp, and now the most perfect casting of all, Steve Martin, the Jerk.
It was never easy for me. I was born a poor black child.
Meet Navin Johnson. He's poor.
You mean I'm gonna stay this color?
And he's eager.
This is the kind of music that tells me to go out there and be somebody! But Navin...
Let him go.
Traveling down that lonely road, seeking fortune.
Actual live weight guessing. Take a chance and win something.
Finding
The
fame.
new phone book's here! The new phone book's here!
Johnson, Navenar. Sounds like a typical...
And learning about love from a perfect master. Making new friends
Die, milkmaid!
with an instinctive flair.
He hates these cans! Stay away from the cans! I know you belong.
But despite life's cruel twists of fate,
What do you think I am, some kind of a jerk or something? That's why I'm spearheading the $10 million class action suit against Mr. Johnson, his irresponsible selling of a product he didn't even test on prisoners.
no matter how hot the action or how great the odds, he proved himself an inspiration to jerks everywhere.
I'm gonna buy you a diamond so big, it's gonna make you puke.
Steve Martin.
See that? Be somebody.
He may not be perfect, but he's the only jerk we've got. Steve Martin, the Jerk.
Yellow.
The Jerk.
That's right.
Steve Martin, can you tell the difference?
I am not a bum. I'm a jerk.
Welcome to Dorking Out. My name is Sonia Mansfield, and I'm picking out a thermos for you. Joining me is my podcasting sister from another mister and the co-host of Dorking Out, Margot D. Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend. I have a dog named Shithead.
That dog is really smart. For a shithead, he's pretty smart. He's the bestest boy. We are dorking out about 1979's The Jerk. It's directed by Carl Reiner. It's a screenplay by Steve Martin, Carl Galeb, sorry, pronounced it wrong, and Michael Ellis. And it stars, of course, Steve Martin. Duh, everybody knows this movie. Bernadette Peters, adorable. Everybody drink. Nobody in the world is cuter than Bernadette Peters in this movie.
There's one point where he grabs at her face and it's supposed to be funny. And it is funny, I guess. But I'm just screaming in my head. I'm screaming, don't touch that face. It is perfection.
It is she's
a doll.
Yes. I was like, she's a living doll in this movie. Well, we're going to talk about it. I do want to give a shout out to M. Emmett Walsh as the madman. He's
R.I.P.
Yeah. He's really, really funny in this. I did not see this in the theater, but maybe
No.
Margot did. No?
Oh, no. Is it R? It's got to be an R
It's rated R. Now, that wouldn't have stopped my parents from taking me to see The Jerk, but I did not see it in the theater. I watched it on cable a lot.
Same.
And my parents also had Steve Martin comedy albums, like Comedy Is Not Pretty, but they, on 8-track.
Yep.
We had it on 8-track. And I used to listen to Steve Martin comedy albums a lot. So I knew who he was when I saw this. And when I was a kid, like 50% of the joke, there's so many jokes in this movie, or are they gags? Depends on,
I think it's shtick. Yeah, it's a lot of gag. It's Carl Reiner. So,
Yes.
yeah.
So there's, I would say as a kid, like 50% of them land, and the other ones are over my head. And then this is probably my first time watching this movie in like 30 years. And
it's going to be since the 80s for me.
Yeah.
I can't even remember. It's been so long.
And there's definitely stuff that works, and there's definitely stuff that doesn't work for me in this movie. But
same.
Also, we're doing this movie because we both watched the documentary about Steve Martin on Apple Plus, which is really, really good. And I don't know, I just felt like this was a natural conversation to have. So, how many times have you seen The Jerk, Margot?
You know, I gotta say, probably not that many. I know I saw it when I was on cable in the 80s, and I know it was like at parties and stuff. I realized, like, I don't know why, but I loved Steve Martin.
Yes.
I thought King Tut was hilarious. I loved him on The Muppet Show.
Yes.
I mean, I do like Steve Martin very much. I think of him now as much more of an intellectual than silly. So when he this is just all silly, it's a little alarming because it's just different than what he does now.
Yes.
I'll say this, and I did overall laugh a few times, like belly laughs. There's some good stuff, but for a 90-minute movie, it feels long.
Yes, it does.
There's why does this feel like it's a 2.5 hour comedy?
Yeah, it does feel that way. And look, I know because we got so many requests to cover The Jerk. For some people, this is like their Steve Martin. And
right.
This is not my Steve Martin. My Steve Martin is actually a little after this. I loved The Man with Two Brains, which I watched like a million times when I was younger. And then after that, you get into like All of Me and LA Story and all of, and those are like kind of more my Steve Martin jam. But
yeah, Parenthood.
Yes. I know that people have a lot of affection for this movie. Because they grew up watching it. They have the nostalgia glasses for it. That's all. And that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's over, 40 years ago? I can't do math.
Yeah.
But it's 1979. You do have to grade it on a curve.
Yes.
And have to say, everybody that signed up to do it read the script. They knew what they were getting into.
Yeah.
So no one's a victim, but there's just shit you wouldn't say or do now, which is comedy. That's it ages.
Yeah.
You do something different. I'm sure there's stuff here he would wince at, but
absolutely.
There are also, like I said, there are a few times I fucking laughed out loud because it's just there's so many bizarre elements here. It kind of reminds me of Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yes. Yeah.
Pee-wee did it better.
Yeah. Pee-wee's Big Adventure has aged very, very well for me.
It's consistent. The tone is consistent in that movie. And I think for here, he's obviously writing a love letter to his girlfriend.
Yes.
And she's stunning.
Yes.
And beautiful. And like I said, why isn't she in everything? Because she's on Broadway all the time.
Yes.
But I forgot my point. Anyway.
Their scenes together are the sweetest things. They are
right.
And there's this, again, you're talking about the tone. The tone of this movie for me is all over the place. First of all, it's called The Jerk. And I was like, well, he's not really a jerk. He's just really stupid.
It's kind of like a schmuck.
Yeah, he's a schmuck. He's really, really naive. But his scenes with her are in a totally different movie than the rest of the movie. There's a scene where they sing together and it's so sweet. And he's playing his ukulele and then she takes a trumpet out of nowhere and is playing it. It's so, again, adorable. Everybody drink. And they have great chemistry and it's so sweet. And then there's just this other stuff where he's dropping there's the N-bomb at one point, and I'm oh.
Why don't you go through the beats? Go through what we're...
Yeah. So it starts with Steve Martin is basically a homeless person who's living outside of a movie theater, and the camera stops on him and he's like, let me tell you my story. And he says, I was born a poor black child, which is
made me laugh so hard when I was a kid.
Yes.
And then as an adult, I'm because that was one of his bits too, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that was another thing, watching the documentary about him and then seeing this movie, you see how much of his stand-up is worked into this this movie is very representative of the kind of stand-up comedy Steve Martin was doing at the time. That's like,
and it played arenas.
Yes,
he was so famous as a stand-up comedian.
He was a rock star.
Yeah.
He was so famous. It's bananas, and the stuff he's doing is so smart and stupid at the same time, and
which I like.
Yeah, and this movie has some smart jokes in it, but it's mostly stupid. That's fine. So he says he's grown up as I was born a poor black child, and he really is. He's living in a house in Mississippi with an all black family, and it's pretty obvious that he's adopted, but because he's so dumb, he doesn't know he's adopted. And finally they tell him, and he cries like, "You mean I'm gonna stay this color?"
I love it. It's his birthday, and Mabel King, R.I.P., fucking hilarious.
Yes.
Comedian. She was on What's Happening and The Wiz and everything. But she's like, "It's your birthday. I'm going to bring you favorites: tuna fish sandwich on white bread and mayonnaise, a tab, and a couple of Twinkies." And I'm like, that sounds delicious. All of it.
But and they're like playing the blues, and he's like, "That music makes me feel sad," and he's like totally off key. Like he can't keep any rhythm with the music they're playing because he's just so white. And he hears some like jazz or like big band music on the radio, and this he's able to keep time with. And he realizes there's a whole world out there that maybe he would fit in. And I love the advice they give him as he's getting ready to go. He's like, it's like, "Lord loves the working man and don't trust Whitey."
Which, yeah.
Great advice. We should all get that like embroidered on a pillow. It works. He is going to go to St. Louis, he says, and for some reason he's wearing goggles. I don't know what that's about, but okay.
And the truck that like takes him just to the end of the driveway. But he has to get another truck. It's very silly.
It's very silly.
Where does he go first?
Well, so he goes all the way to a hotel, and in the middle of the night a dog like starts barking, and he takes that as the dog is trying to warn him about a fire. I think he's even saying like, "I'm going to name this dog Einstein because he's so smart. He's warning us about a fire." And like there's no fire, and someone says to him, "You should name that dog Shithead." So then now he's got a dog that he names Shithead, and Steve Martin's character Nathan is so dumb that he's like, the next day they show him he's carrying the dog. He doesn't even know how to fucking walk a dog. That's how dumb he is. He's carrying this dog. Another truck picks them up. He lets the dog sit in the front. He gets in the back. And then he gets a job at a gas station that's Jackie Mason, right? Is the owner. Yeah.
And he's not doing too much shtick, which is good because he can really lean into his shtick. Let's just say shtick. But he's funny. He runs the gas station, and he has a wife that's like much younger and totally using him, and he leaves him alone on a Sunday and says, "I want you got to protect this at all costs." And the racial stereotypes are kind of like it's Hispanic men that are in a stolen car, and they have a bunch of credit cards on them, and he's like, "Oh, I'll fill you up, okay." And then he calls the cops and says, "Hey, I got these guys, come over." And he tries to stall them, and they're adding tires to the order and all this shit. And then he's like, keeps going back with the cops on the phone. I forget all this, and this cracks me up so hard. He's like, "Do you want an oven mitt? You get an oven mitt for getting your car." So he goes in, and they realize the gig is up, the jig is up, they got to go. But he had tied them to a building, their car, and they start dragging out. It's this church in the middle of a wedding ceremony.
So it rips apart a church. And then he's describing the car to the police, and he's like, it's like a blue, sedan, whatever he's describing. He's like, also it's pulling half of a church. Like, maybe lead with that. It's just so dumb. And there's also a whole thing where so then he meets a customer who's constantly like trying to put his glasses on, and his glasses just keep sliding down his face. And he fixes the glasses for him by like putting this little handle on the glasses, and like it like sits on the bridge of your nose and like steadies your glasses on your face. And the guy's like, I'm gonna sell this shit and I'm gonna give you half the profits. And he's like, whatever, you do you. So that character's gone for like a good half hour, 45 minutes.
Right.
But that's when we get the, oh my God, the new phone book is here. The new phone book's here.
And he's so excited that he exists because he has his name in the phone book, which is a thing, kids. You could look it up on Wikipedia. But Emmett Walsh, like just taking that phone book and just popping with his finger, just randomly picking him with the gun. Oh God, that made me laugh. There's some really genuine.
Yeah, this part
bits.
makes me laugh because it's like, he's like, I am somebody now. Like, I'm in the phone book. Like, I'm in print. Things are going to start happening to me now. And then it cuts to Emmett Walsh, like, picking his name at random out of a book. And he's like, I'm going to kill this random guy. And the things he's yelling while he's trying to kill him, too, like, you regular old schmo, I'll kill you. Like, it has no reason to kill him. But we get he's sitting up in a hill with his gun, his sniper rifle, whatever, and he's shooting at Naven, and Naven is standing by these oil cans, and he's like, these cans are defective. And then he hates these cans, which I think is probably one of the more famous lines from this movie. He is again, so dumb, he doesn't realize that this person's trying to kill him, that he doesn't want to just shoot cans because he's so dumb. He gets his dog shithead and runs away. I did laugh at this part too. And he drives onto a lot where it says carnival personnel only. And the sign alone is enough to keep Emmett Walsh away. Because he's like, he's not carnival personnel. Like, get him. And now he's joined the circus. So no more gas station. He's working at the circus. He's a weight guesser. And he meets this woman who like drives a motorcycle through like flaming hoops. And that is Caitlin Adams, who apparently is the founding member of the Groundlings.
Really?
Yeah. I did not know this.
I didn't know that either. Wow. She's hilarious. Too.
Yeah.
She's funny as shit.
Yeah. She's really, really funny. And like, she'll fuck anybody at the circus, basically, is what it is. And she's like, he's my next person. So she like feels him up. She's like living in a trailer that's a total dump or whatever. And like she starts fondling him and grabbing him. And he's like, what's happening to my special purpose? Which is what he calls his dick. My special purpose. And they began hooking up, but they never kiss. Apparently, she's like,
and he writes a letter to his parents about it, and he's like, "I found my special place with somebody," and then the woman reads it out loud. She goes, "Now she's going to give me a blowjob. Anyway, here's $2 that I've sent."
He's all, "I'm going to start earning some extra money because she's going to give me a blowjob." It's so stupid. Again, by the way, that joke totally over my head when I was like 9 years old. I was like, I wonder what a blowjob is. Huh. Oh, well. I didn't know. Then he's like operating the little train and that train ride. And that's when he meets Marie, and that's Bernadette Peters. Again, the cutest fucking thing.
That like no pore free skin.
Yes.
Like just glowing.
Yeah.
It's like there's a halo around her.
A porcelain doll. She is just a doll. She's got the cute little heart sunglasses on.
I want those sunglasses.
I know, they're so cute. I'm gonna get them in prescription. And like he asks her he asks her on a date, and they get a cup of pizza. I'm like, okay, this is the best cup of pizza. He put the other cup of pizza place out of business. And for some reason, he licks her face instead of kisses her. I don't know what that's about, really, but she's really into him, like no matter how stupid he is.
Let me say this. He's so cute. I mean,
Steve Martin was, I mean, he's still.
I did not realize that when I was a kid. I was just like, he was a wild and crazy guy. He was goofy. He was funny. He was silly. I'm like, I look at him now and I'm looking at him. He's like 30 years old, 35 maybe. I don't know. But I'm like, I would hit that. I mean,
he could have all of this. Yes.
He can have all. Don't want it, but he can have it.
It's so interesting because first of all, he looked older even when he was younger because he like had the premature gray hair.
He never dyed it.
Yeah. And then he would dye it when he was like, I'm going to play serious roles. Then he would like dye his hair or whatever. But like, yeah, as a kid, I was like, whatever, he's wild and crazy guy. And then by the time I really liked Steve Martin, he was making things like LA Story and Parenthood. And I was like, well, he's too old for me. And now I look back at those like wild and crazy guys and I'm like, oh, hello. Hi.
Yeah. Yeah. He's hot.
Yeah. So no matter how strange he behaves in this movie, though, like she's into him and it's very, and then they get this very sweet scene where they sing like Tonight You Belong to Me. And he's got his little ukulele and she's got her, I wrote coronet because they call it a coronet, but I was like, isn't that a trumpet? I don't know what the difference is, but they fall in love and they're like living together and they're so cute. And he wants to marry her. And that's where he sings his Thermos song that I still sing all the time. Again, haven't seen this movie in like 30 years and I sing it all the time to my kid, to the dogs. I'm picking out a thermos for Max. No ordinary thermos for Max. And Max is like, yeah, my thermos. But before he can, she leaves him because she's afraid that like he can't provide for her. You know, he doesn't make any money. And she's like singing along with him and crying and she's beautiful. Then he goes to chase after her, but he's naked and he like uses the dog as to cover his junk. That made me laugh too. And picks up a neighbor's dog to cover the back. And then he decides he's leaving the circus at this point. And I love that he's like, okay, shithead, like you need to just let me go. And shithead's like, cool, see you later, peace out. And he's like, yeah, and he's like, no, you have to come with me. And he's like dragging the dog, like, come with me. It cracks me up. Then what happens? Oh, then he finds out that the man he met at the gas station has taken his little invention on the glasses. And he calls it the OptiGrab. And he gives him like a shit ton of money. He's super rich now.
I love how he goes into the bank and he gives a cashier's check and he says for $250. He thinks it's $250.
Yes.
And he's all like, I want it all once.
Yes.
And the bank manager's like, oh, sit down, sir. It's $250,000, which in 1979 was a shitload of money.
Yes, a ton of money. And everyone is wearing these OptiGrab things. From that point on, like anyone who's wearing glasses has this stupid fucking handle on their glasses. As someone who wears glasses, I would never. I mean, maybe if it was like Bejeweled or something, but no.
Yeah.
They
used to really, I remember my dad had the little foamy things.
Yes.
Because they used to be very uncomfortable to wear.
Yes.
All day.
Absolutely. And like, they still are to a certain point, but.
I mean, I'm a contact lens gal.
I am not. We are the opposite.
We're the opposite.
Yes. So they are now, and he finds Marie, and they are like, he's super rich, he wants to show off how rich he is, so he gets this like ridiculous car. He's wearing a stupid hat with a huge feather, and the dog now has a little hat with feathers too,
and sunglasses. The dog's wearing sunglasses in the hat. It's so cute.
The dog should have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor. He's delightful. He or she is delightful. He could make a movie.
They are delightful.
They are delightful. I'm sure. I'm going to pretend that dog is still alive, and it could make a buddy comedy with the dog from Anatomy of the Fall, and I would watch it.
Yes.
Back when dogs could be stars, like Benji or Lassie.
Or Rin Tin Tin if you
Or
want to get
Rin
really
Tin
old.
Tin, really old. Ask your great grandparents. Rin Tin Tin. So they get married, Marie and Nathan, and again they have a ridiculously extravagant life. They have like wine. Like I love him. He's like, let's get some fresh wine. Let's splurge. And the whole thing about their snails on her plate made me laugh too. When they go to the restaurant and he's like, don't look at it. And she's terrified because there's snails on her plate, even though that's what she ordered. The idea of fresh wine. What else? Just the house is massive, way too big for these like two people.
It's a mansion that's been featured in a bunch of movies.
Yes.
But yeah, it's pretty amazing. Like the 3 pools and it describes it in great detail to his family. He's constantly writing back to his family and sending them money.
Yes.
On his adventures. And then they have a disco party, which I was like, I would totally go to that.
Absolutely
that sounds
go.
like fun.
And
right,
she dances, and again, she's beautiful, and like her dancing's really good. And I just wrote in my notes, and Steve Martin is there. Like he didn't really, although he dances a lot at the end. But
yeah, no, he's got some rhythm at the end.
Yes,
but then he's going to be on television to be interviewed for some reason. So they make the whole party sit on the floor and watch the TV. And then it turns out that the thing that he invented makes people go cross-eyed. And that's where you have Carl Reiner
playing himself.
Doing eyeball work that's like amazing.
Yes.
But it makes people cross-eyed. So he's being sued for $10 million. So he's out of business. You know, he's got writing this stack of checks.
He's writing out like 10 million checks for like $1.09 or something like that. There's also the scene where Carl Reiner's like, here's like, look what happened because my vision was impaired. And he's like, I don't yell cut in time. And we see this car like go off the cliff.
My God.
And then as the car's exploding, he's like, cut. So awful. So awful. And yeah, he's drinking, he's writing out his like 10 million checks to people. And by the way, everyone in the court also cross-eyed now at this point. They've all had opti-grabs. Like the whole jury is cross-eyed, the judge is cross-eyed, and that's why he's found guilty and he's writing out his checks. He gets into a fight with Marie and she's just like, I don't care about any of this stuff. Who cares? And he's like, I'm leaving. And we get I don't need anything except this ashtray and this paddle game.
That whole scene, like when I was younger, I thought was the most hilarious goddamn thing. I mean, like now I'm like, we get that so often in comedy now, where they just, The Simpsons and Family Guy and everything. It's like, it used to be comedy was like the rule of 3s, and then it became like 5s and 10s. Like everybody just like so much, but his pants are around his ankles for some reason, and it's in the poster, so you got it. Like, but I'm like, why is he just?
I don't know.
But he's walking around Beverly Hills with his pants around his ankles, a filthy bathrobe.
Yes.
He's now going to be homeless again, out unhoused, however we say. He doesn't have a home. And he's going to his spot, and that's when his family comes and rescues him. And it turns out they were investing in things when he sent them money that actually made money that were not his thing.
Right.
And they say, look, come home with that. Well, we lost our house, but we're going to build one just like it. And he and Marie moved to this house. So it's just like that shack, but they have it, I guess, in Beverly Hills.
But it's a little bit bigger.
Just a little bigger. And then they're playing the banjo and they're dancing and they're all living happily ever after.
Yes. The end. Even Shithead is there.
Even Shithead has a place in their home, and it makes it sound I'm telling you, there's parts of this movie where it's like the comedy drags.
Yeah.
And I think like this whole concept I say is perfected with Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yes.
I think but I think like it's 79 and I think it's his first movie, isn't it?
I think it is too. Yeah. I mean, it was his first starring role for sure.
And it made a shitload of money.
Oh my God.
It's very popular.
It made
this guy
$100 million, which is huge.
$4
in
million.
79. Yeah.
And it was a $4 million budget. And we could both tell you, like, every dude tried to walk around with the arrow through the head thing. Like, that was like, he was very much a part of the culture. He was a big deal.
Yes. I seen the documentary and watching the movie made me appreciate the movie. I actually don't know if I would have liked the movie as much now if I hadn't watched the documentary right before this, because I see so much of his stand-up in here, and I was like, I see what he's doing. He's transitioning from stand-up to movies, and this is like a natural progression here. And then after that, you get things like The Man with Two Brains and All of Me and all of that. But like, I don't know. There are parts of the movie that are cute, and there's parts that made me laugh, but it's not something where I'm like, I can't wait to watch The Jerk again.
Yeah,
because it's just not for me. And that's, by the way, there's also people that like love Caddyshack. And that's another one where I'm like, it's Caddyshack.
See, I like Caddyshack.
Yeah, see?
But a bit, we all have our different tastes. I mean, I think it's to me, like, if you're a Steve Martin completist, definitely check it out.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
his first
for
movie.
sure.
Carl Reiner's always fun. It's got great guest stars. It's, it's a little uneven for me.
Yes. What is your favorite Steve Martin?
I really like Parenthood.
Me too. I love Parenthood.
He does everything in that movie.
We did a whole episode about Parenthood.
Yes. Yeah, I know. And it's like, I know everyone's, it's cheesy, it's Ron Howard. I'm like, I don't give a shit. I like cheesy Ron Howard. It's got heart.
Yes.
And I care about them. And LA Story, we definitely need to do one day. I haven't visited that in a while.
But that one always made me laugh. I loved it. I loved Roxanne.
Roxanne is amazing, and it holds up.
And he is so funny in All of Me. Like, the physical comedy that he does in All of Me is pretty impressive. Like, he's great. He's just such a treasure. And if you haven't seen the documentary, do it.
Definitely. And if you're interested in Steve Martin, he wrote a book called Born Standing Up, which is kind of just his life story. And he goes really into detail about how he structured his comedy and how he worked on his comedy chops and how he got it all together. And like, he's a very hard worker. He is somebody who really, he puts so much thought into what he's doing. And I like highlighted passages from that book because when it came out, I was teaching for the first time, and teaching and performing are the same thing. Like, you're trying to engage an audience. And I found some of his advice was so helpful.
That's interesting.
I made copies and I sent it to friends. Like, you really need to read this. Like, and his story is fascinating. Like, he was working at Disneyland. He was like 12.
Yeah. He's just a kid.
Yeah. And he and his father weren't very close. And he's also like one of the best banjo players. Like, everyone says that his level of ability with that is like off the charts.
Yes.
And he's interesting. I mean, his relationships are interesting. The women that he's been involved with, he's I could see why he gets like really classy dames, like really, because I get it.
Yeah, I totally get it. And I have listened to a lot of his music. He did some albums with Edie Brickell that I love. And
bluegrass, right?
Yeah, and he did a musical with her as well. And it was called Bright Star, and it played here in San Francisco. I went and saw it. I loved it. It wasn't like a big hit here in SF, but I loved it and thought the music was so great. And
I have I remember a story. Sarah Silverman was being interviewed on Howard Stern, and she was talking about how brilliant Steve Martin is. And she's like, I was at a dinner in the Hamptons, and it was at Lorne Michaels' house, and I was sitting with Steve Martin, and his wife is like a New Yorker editor. Like, she's like, I was very intimidated. And Lorne could tell, and Lorne's kind of pretentious, but he says, Sarah, don't be intimidated by this man. When I first took him out for a meal, he didn't know what prosciutto was. And he said, just right away, Steve looked at her and says, now I drive one. Which is that kind of mind is like so impressive.
The banter with him and Martin Short in the second part of the documentary, like Martin Short is just always hanging out with him. They're just always together and writing together. The way they talk to each other, it is so funny. Like he's just a naturally funny person.
Yeah, and it's just so smart.
Yes.
Like he's super, super intelligent, which is hot.
Yes, so hot.
But just so quick and clever. I was like, oh my God, I would drop my drawers. I'd be like, just like that's now I drive one. Jesus Christ, that's funny.
Funny dude. Hot take, everybody.
Hot take
is a funny dude. I read a lot. I read his books. I read Pure Drivel, which made me laugh out loud. I read Shop Girl when it came out. I've always been a Steve Martin girly. So, but this one is, again, huge fans, and there's classic stuff in here. It's just not my go-to Steve Martin.
No, I mean, it's just the racial stuff it doesn't age well. We didn't even mention the part where he used the N-word. Yeah. And he's using it in a righteous way for 1979. Yes. Like he's beating up racists.
Yes.
But you still can't, it's still, it's and some of the shtick. I did like it when, so she's a cosmetologist, Marie.
Yes.
And she puts this green crap on people's faces, and it's all men. This guy that's getting this mask.
Yes.
And I'm forgetting the word now, but like she's like, okay, I'm going to take this mask off. He's going to look 20 years younger. And his wife it's a Yiddish word, which just means like, with God's help. There's just little, but like, I didn't know that as a kid. Now I've lived in Brooklyn forever. I'm like, oh, I get it. Okay. But still, if you're a completist or you're just curious, check it out. But just understand there's like some stuff like edgy comedy never ages well. It's just,
right.
It's inappropriate. You laugh at the time, and then later on, you're like, okay, that's just
There's a lot of shtick in this movie, and your mileage may vary.
That's a better way of putting it.
It's just like we did a whole episode on Airplane. Like, if you don't like that joke, wait 5 seconds. You'll get another one, and maybe that one will work for you.
I gave up the wrong week for sniffing glue.
That one always works. Do you want to hear the top 10 movies of 1979?
Goddamn right I do.
Okay. Number 10, The Muppet Movie.
The best movie.
I love The Muppet Movie. Steve Martin is in The Muppet Movie, too. He's the waiter that brings them their fine wine from Oregon.
I meet people every once in a while that aren't into the Muppets, and I'm just like, you're a fucking monster. If they're around my age, if you're Gen X, like the Muppets, I hate you.
I don't understand that.
Yeah, you're allergic to joy.
Yeah, I watched that movie countless times with Calvin, and there's always something to laugh at in that movie. Always. Number 9, Moonraker.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I'm like,
I like James Bond movies.
Yeah, me too. And this one is very cheesy, James Bond.
Yeah, you grade it on a curve. Like,
exactly. Number 8 is The Jerk.
Yep.
Just talked about it. Then we have the movie 10.
That might be one
we should definitely cover this one sometime, because this is...
Yeah. Talk about a juggernaut.
Y'all, they tried to make Dudley Moore a sex symbol. I'm like...
Kind of worked.
Not for me, but that's okay. To each their own. Okay. Apocalypse Now. Never heard of it.
Yeah, it's a romp.
After I saw The Jerk...
Apocalypse Now night. Yes.
What a great double feature. Alien.
Fantastic.
Dope. That's a dope movie.
Dope. I love that whole series. Yeah.
Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Is that the first one?
Yes. Not as dope.
Nah, it's fine.
It looks great. It's really slow. Really, really slow.
Is it like every other one that's the good one? Like the even ones or something like that? There's some kind of rule with Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Wrath of Khan is great.
Yes, it is, and we did a whole
And the
episode.
fifth one's amazing.
I'm a defender of actually pretty much all the Star Treks except for the first one.
Yeah.
The first one is just, again, looks great, just really slow. Okay, couple more movies. Rocky 2.
Yeah. A spoiler, he wins that one.
What? Number 2, Amityville Horror. Mhm.
You know, I actually remember talking with my dad and saying, like, that whole thing was, made up because they had dead and blah, blah, blah. And he looked at me like, you thought that shit was real? Like, he was so disgusted with how dumb of a kid I am.
You must be adopted. Or
Exactly. What? The talking pig and that shit? What?
I know I've seen Amityville Horror, but
Everyone tells me I look like Margot Kidder, by the way.
Well, that's a huge compliment because she's
rad.
Yeah.
Was rad.
Well, and
Yeah.
you're rad. So, duh.
Aw.
I haven't seen that movie since like the 80s, but I don't know if you know this, Margot, but it's not a true story.
No.
And the number one, this blows my mind, the number one movie of 1979 is Kramer versus Kramer.
Are you fucking kidding
I
me?
am not kidding you, you all. I got it made over $100 million. It is the number one movie. This like adult drama about divorce.
What?
Is the
and it's
number
such a fucking bummer.
the big like who was like, hey man, you gotta go see Kramer versus Kramer. Like, I'm gonna run out and see Kramer versus Kramer. Like,
Hey, date night.
like, yeah, right. At least that's not us, woo. Like, I mean, I know like divorce was becoming more and more common, and like maybe it clicked for people because there weren't movies like this, but an adult drama like this would never be the number one movie now. This would never happen.
No. Do you want to hear the top 10 songs for that week?
I can't wait.
Okay, so this 1970 August, right? That's when The Jerk came out?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's number 10, Take the Long Way Home, Supertramp. Still love that song.
Yep, that's a good one.
Sorry, my phone is being an asshole. Number 9, Heartache Tonight by the Eagles.
I love the Eagles. Love.
Same. Number 8, The Captain and Tennille. Do That to Me One More Time.
I was
Love The Captain and Tennille.
super into the Captain and Tennille.
I was
love
on
some yacht
board.
rock.
Yep. Number 7, J.D. Souther, You're Only Lonely.
I don't know that song. I bet if I heard it, I'd be like, yes.
You know it.
yes.
Number 6, oh, this song is so fucking dope. Barbara Streisand, Donna Summer, No More Tears. Enough is enough.
Yep.
That
yep.
song's fucking dope.
It is.
Number 5, Stevie Wonder, Send One Your Love. That's not my favorite Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
Number 4, this song you can't fucking escape. It's Rupert Holmes' Escape.
That song,
about cheating.
when I was younger, I loved that song, and then you listen to it as an adult, and you're like, they were gonna cheat on each other.
It puts you in a mood, man.
It's a yacht rock song.
Yeah. Number 3, Casey and the Sunshine Band, Please Don't Go. This list is great.
I was totally into. I loved Casey.
Casey's great.
Yep.
I saw him like 20 years ago. It was a fantastic show in Reno.
That's awesome.
Number 2, the Commodores, Still. I love Lionel Richie.
Me too.
It's a ballad. It's like a really.
Oh, I know. Okay. Yes. I know.
And talking about yacht rock, Sonia. Number 1, Styx, Babe. Babe, I believe in.
I'm leaving you today. I like that song too. I love yacht rock, y'all. I listen to that yacht rock station on Sirius XM all the time. Love that
I had a friend obsessed with the album Paradise Theater. Like every time she came over, she brought that album with her. I'm like, oh fuck, not this again. The best of times.
Oh my god. My sister and I, when we were living together as adults, I mean, not like sharing a room as a kid, we bought like the best of Styx, like CD, and we used to listen to it all the time. We're talking about in the 2000s. We like rediscovered Styx. We were all in.
They were great.
Yeah, Mr. Roboto. Too much time on my hands.
Arigato. Yeah, that's a good song.
That one is so good. What else are you dorking out about, my friend?
I was late for this call with you.
Yes.
Like all of a sudden you popped up on my phone. I'm like, oh shit, I got to record with Sonia. Because the Peacock Network is just putting out all these old Bravo shows. And it's because the Housewives, like, we're all waiting for Salt Lake City to come back and New Jersey. Like, there's kind of a lull right now. I'm just not into Summer House. You like the Vanderpump and the Valley.
I'm currently obsessed with Vanderpump Rules.
But I love the Housewives, and they had one season in DC, and it was batshit crazy. And it's 2010, and so it had one season, and there's this couple, Tarek and Michaela, and I forget, Salahi. And there's like 5 women, and it's this tall, thin, blonde woman and her husband, and they are constantly crashing parties. And this is when Obama was in the White House.
I remember this. Okay.
Yes, they went to the Black Caucus. Like, it's a big deal, but they like brought friends with them, and then they would sneak into places and then go around and try to find seats. There's a picture of them, famous picture of them, like shaking hands with President Obama. Like, they got right past security.
Yes, I remember this now.
These people are fucking insane. Like, he has a winery, and he and his mother were suing each other to run the winery, and they invite everybody to come over, and then he's telling them, his mother had sent a press corps to follow them because she knew they were on Real Housewives, because she was trying to serve him papers or something. So he hired security for this winery in the middle of Virginia. Like, nothing's going on. And they had to go in a back entrance. It was just bananas. And then he gets really wasted, and then he accuses one of the women of her daughter stealing his car and all of his polo equipment, and going on and on about the FBI's in on it.
Polo equipment.
Yes. So he's mean and crazy. And she, once again, tall, thin, blonde, like, she always is like defending him. She says that she was a cheerleader for the DC football team, which used to be called something else. It's called the Washington Senators now.
Mm-hmm.
She shows up at a get-together of former cheerleaders. She finds out they're having a get-together and they're going to go on the field. So she just gets an outfit and runs out there and starts hugging people like crazy. She never was a cheerleader. She was never a cheerleader. She's running up to, hey, girl, how you doing?
Oh, my God.
And she obviously can't cheer. Like, they're teaching her choreography. She has no idea what she's doing. This woman is, and this, like, throughout the show. And then they have 2, so it's like 12 episodes, and then they have a reunion. It's only like 2 parts. Her husband's stalking the reunion. They won't let him in.
Oh, my God.
Annie is trying to ask her, like, were you a cheerleader or not? And she keeps avoiding the question.
Oh, my God. This sounds really good.
So it's awesome. And then a few months later, maybe a year later, half the couples are divorced, or 3/4. But this couple, she escapes from him. She tells this guy, Tarek, I'm going to go visit my mother. She's sick. So I'll see you in a few days. So he calls the mother when he doesn't hear from her, and her mother's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm fine. I haven't talked to her in weeks. Turns out she used to have a fling with Neil Schon of Journey, the guitarist for Journey. Turns out he's held a candle for her all these years.
Yes.
He helps her escape. They get married. And then she puts it on video on demand to make money from that. And now she's with this multimillionaire rock star.
Bananas.
It's bananas. And everybody said, like, they couldn't get a second season because these people were but I'm like, everyone's begging for it because they were, all of them are nuttier than fruitcakes.
Yes.
And because it's their first season, they're trying really hard. Like, they don't have a personality yet, and that's always kind of fun. And anyway, like, it absorbed like 2 hours of my time here, way more than The Jerk. I was way more into this. But I'm not ruining anything, y'all. I mean, honestly, if you need like just brain candy, just something really dumb, their story is wackadoo.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Anyway, okay, so also Manhunt that just finished, really good. Taylor Swift's album dropped, really great. I'm enjoying it. Been listening.
Do you have a favorite so far?
Is it bad down or down bad? Yeah,
I want to say it's down. I think it's down bad.
And then So Long London.
Okay. I like the one she does about I do it with a broken heart.
Yes, that's really good.
I can do it with a broken heart. Yeah, I'm like, it's super 80s sounding, and I live it. So felt that song in my soul.
She's great. And then one more thing to recommend. I think I talked about this on What a Creep, but Chelsea Devantez she does celebrity memoirs, usually just women's memoirs.
Mm-hmm.
It's a show called Glamorous Trash.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And she talks about pop culture and stuff like that. And her most recent episode, she has Delta Burke, who has not done an interview in many years. But she was telling her that 98 Delta Burke put out a memoir. And she said, like, I was a teenager and I read your memoir and it really changed my life. And Delta Burke just writes about how shitty she was treated by the media because she dared to get fat. Like, it was so offensive.
Awful to her.
Awful. And you just listening to her, she just sounds like a very sweet, kind of fragile person.
Mm-hmm.
And then Gerald McCraney is her husband.
Yeah.
And they're still together. 35 years.
That's amazing. He would defend her like
to the he's in on the interview. Like it's a Zoom call and he like every once in a while just chimes in and like just to encourage her, like, oh, remember this, remember that. And she said he's the one like I got choked up because he's the only one, like even my parents didn't love me this much. Like he really believes in me. I know. And it's like, I don't know. It really just gave me the feels. And anyway, that's it.
That's a good one. That's a good rec. I have 2 movie recs. I went to the theater and I saw Monkey Man, which is the new action movie starring Dev Patel from, people might know him from Slumdog Millionaire, or he was in The Newsroom, which I didn't watch. Lion with Nicole Kidman. He was really, really good in that. If you like John Wick movies, you will like Monkey Man. It's basically John Wick. It's Indian John Wick. I don't think it's trying to pretend that it isn't. It is.
Right.
Like he is someone who, as a child, this like gang murdered his mother. I'm not spoiling anything. It's right in the trailer. And he grows up and he's an amazing fighter and he wants to get revenge. It's really gory. It's really, really good. And he's really good at he's a star to me. Like,
oh yeah, no, and I love revenge movies.
Yeah, he's very handsome. Like he's aged very well. He's very, very handsome. It's a very entertaining movie. I was super into it. Again, I like the John Wick movies. This is very much that. So I recommend. And then last night, it's streaming now on Shudder. I watched Late Night with the Devil. Have you seen previews for this one?
I've heard about it, but I don't know what it's about.
Okay, so it's the idea is that the movie is the last episode of this talk show from the 70s, kind of a Johnny Carson style. They reference Johnny Carson a lot. Like this person is competing with Johnny Carson. He has a talk show called Night Owls, and this whole thing is representative of the last episode of the show. So it's like what's in front of the camera and then the things they're filming like behind the scenes. And it's a Halloween show and it's sweeps week. He's trying to like get the ratings. So he has somebody come on who can like commune with the dead. He has a girl who comes on who speaks to a demon, like all these things, and scary things ensue. I don't want to spoil.
No, don't spoil it.
Yeah, I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody. First of all, I think the set totally looks like those 70s talk shows that like your Dick Cavitts and your Dinah Shore and like Merv Griffin, like all that stuff. It totally looks like that stuff. I don't think it sticks the landing, but up until that point, I was all in. I thought it was super entertaining. And it's on Shudder streaming. It was in the theater as of last week, and now it's already on Shudder. So if you have it, I think it's worth watching. Again, I will be curious what people think of the ending, but I think it's very entertaining. I've also been listening to the Taylor Swift album.
Yep.
Just like you. I'm literally 30 minutes away from finishing Ripley.
It's great, right?
It's beautiful. I watched the Steve Martin documentary, which is amazing. And I know I watched another one. What was the other thing I watched? Shame on me. Something. Oh, The Jinx 2 is starting. Well, if you're listening to this episode when it drops, it's tonight. The sequel to the Robert Durst documentary that was on HBO Max is coming out this week. So I just finished the Robert Durst documentary, part 1, and it's still fucking creepy. What a weirdo. It's so good. It's so good. It's just so good. So I'm excited to watch the next one. And oh my God, I forgot to tell you this. Lexi, the host of Schooled by Cinema, has asked me to come on her podcast and talk about Pixar movies.
Oh,
so
awesome.
I will be promoting that when it drops. I think I'm recording next week sometime, so it'll come out sometime in May, but I'll definitely mention it here when that happens. I'm going to be watching a bunch of Pixar movies over the next couple weeks.
Oh, I was a guest on a podcast too.
Yeah, tell.
It's called Fixing Famous People.
Yes. I'm
gonna be talking about Anne Hathaway.
Oh my God. Okay.
But I don't know when it's gonna drop.
Okay.
So they call it the prefix, where they talk about stuff in the news, and then they have a celebrity that they fix. And so we talked about Anne Hathaway. So check Fixing Famous People, and I will be on there.
Well, thank you for the heads up. I will definitely be listening, Avi. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I'm here. Y'all, we actually got some good reviews.
What?
What? If you like our show, please review us. It helps us find our people. You know, you can find us at dorkingoutshow.com and Dorking Out Show, Apple, Spotify, all those things. And on Apple, I want to give a shout out to Sue King 500, Brooklyn Listener, which is not Margot, and then Sue 2694 for giving us 5-star reviews. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It helps us find our people. And if you have requests for the show, you can email us at dorkingoutshow@gmail.com. And if you give us your address, we will send you some stickers. They're adorable. Everybody drink. My friend, where can they find you on the internet?
My site is Brooklyn Fit Chick. That's also my handle for Instagram and Threads. I don't really do Blue Sky, sorry. And then I'm at Brooklyn Margot for TikTok and for Twitter or X, but I don't clear Twitter.
Let's just call it that from now on. Twitter.
I think that's a Julie Klausner thing that just popped in my head because that's how she pronounced it. Twitter.
All right, I'm into it.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Everything else is that's all it is to me now.
Oh, did you hear, by the way, that Tesla had to recall all those stupid trucks?
I've seen some here in San Francisco. They're so fucking ugly. They are so ugly. I can't believe that people proudly drive them around. Like, how embarrassing for you.
Yeah.
At least Teslas make sense to me. Like, that one does not make any sense to me.
I actually rode in a Tesla. It was an Uber that was a Tesla.
Yeah,
and I was yeah, I get it. This is kind of cool.
Yeah, they're nice. People want to save on gas. I get it. It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I love people get bumper stickers that says, I got this car before I knew Elon was an asshole, basically. I see a lot of those in San Francisco. But yeah, I saw some of the ugly armored whatever the fuck those things are.
Don't buy one
no.
because the glue, the accelerator, like it gets stuck. So
surprise.
I'm sorry, but I'm also like this whole thing of like you have to download a program to work your car.
No.
I think there's something really fucked up about that. That's just my tinfoil hat thinking,
you are not a tinfoil hat person. Elon Musk is a tinfoil hat person, and he's crazy. So
I honestly think he would take a thing like in Real Genius, like he would just like put a laser to like take me out. I honestly think that.
Yeah, he would.
I don't have a car. I don't even know if I have a driver's license anymore, to be honest with y'all. I live in New York. I don't need it.
You don't need it. People don't drive in New York. No, but he's like, the less things I have that tie me to that weirdo, the better.
Yeah.
Like, I already have Twitter. That's good enough. You could find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, all the things except for Facebook. And if you like the sound of our voices, we also co-host a podcast called What a Creep, where we talk about creeps of the past and the present. And we end every episode with someone who's not a creep. Who's our creep this week, Margot?
It's Mark Cherry, and we're talking about Desperate Housewives and all the creepy shit that happened when that show was on the air. Yeah.
It's a good one. Good pick, Margot.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for talking about The Jerk with me. I'm picking out a thermos for you.
Aw.